Hello, everyone. Lou, thank you so much to be here today. How are you today?
Sir, I'm doing quite well, thank you. There's an old saying that my father used to tell me, and that is, any day above ground is a good day. So I'm doing quite well, thank you.
Your father sounds a good man, and I'm so excited, to be honest, to be with you today because we're gonna have the time to get into the bottom of the subject. We met maybe 2 3 weeks ago on another channel, maybe Planet, and we have this, I would say, primary conversation about it, and you make some introduction in our country, France, who had some interest about the subject, but we are quite skeptical about it. And we also have this big thing that you mentioned a lot, the social stigma. So I have prepared questions, and we'll see, have like a stand conversation, and we'll see how it goes. Um, Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It is truly my honor and pleasure. Thank you.
Well, Lou, this conversation is going to be around, I would say, 90 minutes. We will do the best to get in the bottom of it, as I said. But before, jumping into very, big questions, I would like to have an introduction from you with your words. Like, where are you coming from professionally? What is your military background before you join the AATIP program?
Sure. So my background, initially I went to university, and I was in the medical program. So I graduated with degrees microbiology, immunology, and parasitology, which is the study of microorganisms and viruses and whatnot inside the human body. Um, it was during that time when I was doing some research in some particular type of microorganisms that I got exposed to the United States government and the intelligence apparatus. After college, I joined the United States military. I joined the Army, and I served within its enlisted ranks for a period of time, and became a counterintelligence agent, an individual, an intelligence professional within the Army. From there, when I left the Army, I was recruited into a special activities program where I focused initially in my efforts were in South America and Latin America writ large because of my background being Cuban American and I guess my language skills. So I spent time in Central America and working throughout the Latin American hemisphere, primarily doing things such as counterinsurgency and counter support to counter narcotics. And it wasn't until September 11th that my focus then changed to primarily counterterrorism and counter espionage. Um, I spent quite a bit of time over in the Middle East and in Afghanistan, running intelligence operations, primarily human intelligence and counterintelligence missions. And that's pretty much my background. I was very much an investigator. From that perspective, it's no nonsense, just the facts. My job was simple: collect the truth and speak the truth. That's it, and provide that information in a consumable manner to either my leadership, my chain of command, or a jury. It depends what the topic was. And in 2008, I was asked to be part of a small program. At the time, I didn't know what the program was. I just knew that it was fairly sensitive, and I was asked to provide counterintelligence and security support for this small effort. It wasn't until once I was inside the program that I realized it was actually involving UFOs, or what we call UAPs in a more technical term. And in 2010, when its former director had left, I was asked to take over the program and continue the program. That program is now known as AATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a very small but highly nuanced effort established by members in our legislative branch. Four senators, very senior senators, had set this program up to study UFO incursions into controlled U.S. airspace. And in 2017, I resigned my position out of a frustration of over secrecy and an inability to provide this information through my chain of command. Obviously, we were being paid a significant amount of money from taxpayer dollars to perform a mission, and the bureaucracy didn't allow the results of that mission to be provided up through the chain of command. And so finally in 2017, out of an abundance of respect for our Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis, who I had the honor and privilege to serve with in combat, I resigned because I in my heart, I believed he had a need to know. He should know what's going on. And unfortunately, the bureaucracy didn't allow that to happen. Over the last 3 years, I've been working within the private sector to bring attention to this important matter, help allow a conversation that has historically been fraught with stigma and taboo, bring it front and center stage, allowing us to have a real scientific conversation about this topic that, quite frankly, doesn't impact national security and isn't just a U.S. phenomenon, but is indeed a global phenomenon, in my opinion.
Thank you. That gives us a full picture of your expertise and where you came from. What we can see, there is different angle that we're going to dig into this interview. There is, of course, the military and agency secrecy working in the U.S. government, and at the same time, there is also the politics. You mentioned senators. So when military and politics get involved in a subject, everything's getting more complex, always. So if you manage, I would say, if you mix up the UFO subject with politics and military, it's always complex. So for having a full picture of it, it's always complicated. So what I'm going to try is really to separate everything during this interview for the audience to understand what it is, what it is exactly your research is leading to. So you mentioned at the beginning that you have some experience in science. Did you ever use this expertise, your science background, when you were working as a military?
Absolutely. I think the scientific method is something that is tried and true. I think whether you're prosecuting a terrorism investigation, or you're collecting evidence, or you're in the field collecting information and intelligence, science doesn't lie. Science doesn't necessarily have all the answers, but science doesn't lie. Math doesn't lie. And so it was always very important for me, whether I was in the field or in the halls of the Pentagon or elsewhere, to always remember that the scientific methodology is one that is tried and true. And as long as you stick to the science, generally you're going to have a much greater chance of success ultimately in whatever your endeavor is. Absolutely,
I'm totally agree. So it's just for people to understand that because you are familiar with the science approach and methods, you always work that way. You always work with certain protocols that makes the subject with more details, with more, I would say, it's more real. I would say there is no room for imagination. You stay on facts, and a lot of people knows you as Mr. Facts. I read this and I heard that somewhere. I don't remember where, but I remember that.
I'm pretty regimented. Yeah, I don't like to speculate or offer opinions very much. I like to stick with just the facts. I guess part of that's my training and my background, but as long as we stick to facts, I think we're generally better off when having a conversation like this.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to see. Is this we're going to talk about facts. We're not talking about imagination, or we stay on facts. So this is something when I started reading you and hearing what you were doing, I was like, this guy know exactly how to stay on tracks. because this is something that hurt the subjects. When you look at all the people who work in this UF department, I would say like private people or even scientists or amateur, they have a very hard time to stay on tracks. They start to talk about a lot of things into the subject, like I would say, I don't know, you know, who is behind the wheel, and all those questions that we don't have the answer right now. So this is how we're going to keep moving on.
Nico, at the end of the day, if I may, it doesn't matter
Sure.
what I or LUIS ELIZONDO thinks. That's completely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the equation. What matters is what we know. What are the facts? And very much like prosecuting a terrorist or any other type of crime, you know, it's important that my job is very simple, and that's always to collect the information and then provide that information in a consumable manner, and then provide that information to the jury if this was a court of law. And in this case, the jury is the American public, from where I sit here in the United States. It doesn't matter what I think. What matters is what the facts say. What matters is what the jury thinks. And so it's important that I don't quote unquote prejudice the jury by providing or overlaying information that is not relevant to the facts. And so I may have my opinions and speculate all day long, but at the end of the day, that's not relevant. What's relevant is what are the facts saying that we've collected through not just eyewitness testimony, but through electro-optical data, through radar data, and all the other various sensors that we have available within our intelligence apparatus. What's important is what do the facts say, and then provide that information to the American people so they can make a determination if this should be a priority for us, a national security issue. And if the answer is no, at the end of the day, I'm fine with that. But at least let's have the conversation. Up until recently, at least let's have the conversation, because until recently, we weren't even allowed to have the conversation. And the only thing to me that's more dangerous than something capable of flying unimpeded in our controlled airspace is not being even able to have the conversation about it. And that to me is very problematic.
Absolutely. I want to get back on the AATIP program. Can you just give us an idea about what was your daily duties there? And if you maybe can mention people who were working with you at that time, because people think about it. There is name like Dr. Harputov that came back a lot of time, but maybe you can give us info if you can. If you cannot and you're not allowed, we would probably understand that.
So what I'll do is I'm happy to talk about the individuals that have come out publicly associated with AATIP.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was meaning.
Yeah. Those that have not come out publicly, I'm going to respect their wishes of privacy until they decide if they ever want to come out. Yeah. As far as AATIP itself, you know, it was an incredibly rewarding opportunity to have. I didn't ask for the job. It was given to me, like many of the jobs I've had in the government. You execute an order. But in this particular case, I had the honor and privilege of serving with some of America's finest individuals, and some of those individuals include folks like Hal Puthoff. Some other folks that have come out include not just Dr. Puthoff, but Dr. Davis, Eric Davis, to include as well other individuals like Mr. Bob Bigelow. And of course, we can't have this conversation without mentioning Senator Harry Reid. So those are some of the top level individuals that I had the privilege of working with. Interestingly enough, now I will share this with you that some of the people that are now associated with the UAP task force in our country were with me during AATIP. So there is some continuity there, yes, and so that's a good thing because they didn't start from scratch. It was a continuation, I think, of the efforts that we were engaged upon.
Awesome, thank you, Lou. There is details about it. As you said, and I totally agree with that. Stay on facts, so that's always good when you can confirm that things and kill rumors and all this stuff. So there is a question raised about it is how this AATIP program was born. You mentioned Senator Harry Reid, who was so I would say, involved in the question of the UAP or UFO phenomenon. There is also Mr. Robert Bigelow also. So how this AATIP program was born? How did it happen?
Sure. Yeah. So initially there was a discussion, and I certainly don't want to speak for the good senator, but based upon my understanding, there was a concern by certain members in Congress, particularly the Senate. And so you had at the time, Senator Stevens, Senator Inouye, former astronaut John Glenn, and Senator Harry Reid, all agreeing that there were incidents occurring in and around controlled U.S. airspace and facilities that we had no idea what these things were, and that we should probably, as a Department of Defense and as an intelligence community, probably look at apply some resources to this to figure out what exactly is going on. And let me preface this by stating this is not a conversation like grandmother seeing some lights in the backyard. These are trained observers, highly trained observers, who in some cases had millions of dollars worth of training put into them so they could be trained observers while flying. And at the same time, what they are reporting is being backed up by electro-optical collection systems such as gun camera footage, and of course later on radar systems as well, and not just one but multiple radar systems. So in this case, you have 3 separate collection sensors picking up the recording and collecting the same data at the same time in the same location under the same circumstances. That's very compelling. That's back in terms of if we were to have a conversation about a court of law, I think we're well beyond reasonable doubt at this point when it comes to that we have now recognized the reality that these things are real, whatever they are.
It is.
So.
Okay. Thanks. The when I made some researches. I remember it was around 2016, so probably a year before you starting to get in public. I remember the October 2017 when there is this meeting with TTSA, and you all went live. There is Chris Mellon, Jim Samivan, and of course Tom DeLonge was there. I remember some memo here and there about the General Mac Castellan. Have you worked with him? Have you heard about him? Because it looks like that he had some connection with Tom DeLonge, and it was also connected with Podesta at that time. Have you heard about it?
Sure. I mean, with all due respect to your audience, I'm going to let if General McCaslin wants to discuss any of his experiences regarding this topic, I'm probably going to go ahead and let him have that conversation. Sure. I certainly wouldn't want to speak on behalf of General McCaslin or anybody else, without their specific approval. It's not that I'm answering yes or no. It's just I think out of due respect for the good general, I'll politely pass on that question and let him answer that for you.
No, it's fine. At least it means that you know him. So it's getting more on facts than rumor, because people say that we're not sure about it. So you just say, okay, so at least you know him, and that's a good thing. And I will totally respect the fact that you cannot speak on the behalf of him, for sure. There is a man that you mentioned that he's a millionaire. So a lot of people always wonder why a millionaire would get interest in the paranormal or UFO interest. Well, talking about Robert Bigelow, can you tell us, did you have any professional relationship linked to TTSA or AATIP or what's coming on next? Is there something that you can share with us, Lou,
Sure.
about Robert Bigelow?
Yeah, first of all, Bigelow is an incredible human being. I would certainly consider him a national treasure and one of America's finest. I had the honor and privilege of working with him during the AATIP. He was definitely associated with AATIP in a very major way in the early days, to include OSAP, another program as well. That was related to AATIP. You ask, why does a millionaire decide, or in this case, a billionaire decide to put money into this thing? Well, you know,
And to
history.
be honest, I have a very deep respect for the man, because I
Sure.
actually read everything and heard everything about his position, but nobody knows really him much,
Yeah.
and he's still working in the space area. Everybody's talking about Elon
Yeah.
Musk or Jeff Bezos, but nobody's talking about Bigelow.
Yeah. You know, Bigelow is certainly a pioneer, and embodies what I would consider the American spirit and entrepreneurship. You know, so why does a millionaire, in this case a billionaire, get involved in this topic? Well, I think if you look throughout history, there have been individuals who have decided to dedicate themselves to philanthropic ideas and efforts. So, for example, the Rockefellers, there have been some individuals in the Rockefeller family who've been very interested in this topic. You have Chris Mellon, one of my dear friends and colleagues, who doesn't need to do this. You know, he doesn't make any money off this. In fact, he's probably losing a substantial amount pursuing this, but he does it because it's the right thing, because he wants the truth to be known. And I certainly put Bigelow in that same category. You know, there comes a point in time in life where if you're not distracted by the needs and wants of everyday living, you know, you have a choice. You can either live an exotic and eccentric and selfish life, or you can decide to give back to society. And in this case, these men have chosen to do that. They've chosen to give back and invest in humanity. And for that reason, that's why I think they're heroes. Very, very few people, if you were to, let's say, win the lottery tomorrow and had millions, if not billions of dollars, what would you do? What would you do with your time?
Most of them probably go on an island, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Most would
then,
probably go to the French Riviera and, you know, drink champagne all day and you know, leave the world's woes behind. Not these people. They're different. They're cut from a different cloth, and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, which for me is, and then frankly lose everything. And for me, that's what's so profound about this, is that I've had the honor and privilege of working with people. Literally, I've had the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of these giants and be part of this effort to bring the truth of the matter forward.
Thank you. Thanks. That's absolutely interesting, and I think we will keep having, you know, questions around this man, Robert Bigelow, because hopefully we'll be connected to what's coming on in the next 2 months about the task force, and hopefully we have something. But I will keep this question for later on, and I want to get back on something that that might be very interesting for people to understand. It looks like that, you know, when you were working as a military and in these agencies, internal to, say, Air Force or Navy around the subjects. Is that something that, because in other topics, there is always conflict between agency, between NSA or CIA. So I guess. So that's why you just here for confirmation or not. But I guess there is tension issue also around the UFO subject. Is that something that you give more, you know, inputs on it?
Sure. I mean, this is it's especially inside any bureaucracy. Any topic is it's going to be more challenging because, you know, we live in a democracy. We don't particularly have a king that's going to make a decision. Even our president has to share power with our Congress, and the bureaucracy is a reflection of that balance of powers. So there is by design this, I want to call it healthy tension between organizations, not just within the services, military services, which is true also in France, but also within our intelligence apparatus, because we strive to have something called alternative analysis. We work very hard to make sure that we don't make the mistakes that we have in the past sometimes. For example, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, right, which predicated a war. Yep. It's important that we have all voices, if you will, recorded and reflected, so leadership can make a well-informed decision. And so in some cases, that means information doesn't necessarily flow as easily as it should from one organization to another. And in those cases, that's when you have a problem. AATIP was a perfect example of that. In the United States national security apparatus, we do a very good job of sharing information and getting information from point A to point B. In fact, some friends of mine that I respect have speculated in the government that's probably why initially we won the Cold War against the then Soviet Union, because not that we kept better secrets, it's because we knew how to move information better, faster, quicker, more efficiently through the system and share that information. But that's not always true when it comes to topics like this. There are rare exceptions, and the UAP topic, the UFO topic, is I suspect one of them, where there's a lot of resistance internally to do anything about it, and part of it is because there is this ignorant bliss mentality that as long as I don't know about it, I don't have to do anything about it. Once I know there's a real issue, now I'm going to be forced to have to do something and possibly fix it. And I have no idea where to start. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works. I don't know what the intentions are. And I can't really do much to stop it. So how do I fix a problem for which I know nothing about? And I think therein lies some of the problem that we have in the U.S. government. There is this, we're very good at addressing defined threats. But this is a very much ill-defined potential threat. We don't even know if it's a threat. We haven't even figured that out. So how do you get a national security apparatus engaged on something that we're not even sure is a threat? It might not be a threat. We simply don't know. There's not enough data to allow us to make that determination. So it's not an easy problem for us to fix. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, because ultimately I don't want to hurt my government. I want to help my government. I want to help my government do what it's supposed to do. And that is...
You are, I guess, sometimes in the middle of this, between agency, trying to find the proper way of conversation to talk about the subject. Is it what you mean? You're in this middle of conversation, always try to help the government to move forward on a question.
Well, certainly, I want to do my best to facilitate a fair, objective, logical conversation. Something that removes all the silliness of tinfoil hats and all this other nonsense, and let's just talk about facts. Let's just talk about what's really going on, and then maybe later on some smarter people can start having that other conversation. That needs to happen, but I'm not sure we're quite there yet.
I want to ask you a question related to this. Is a lot of people in America, I used to live in the US, I used to live in California, and I've been working in that field as a researcher and writer for almost 15 years now, a little bit more. But there is, when you look at it, there is the first military part of the US who has been involved in this UFO subject was the Air Force. It was in 1947. We have no really idea about what really happened there. I'm not talking about UFO or whatever. I'm just thinking there is something happened, and the Air Force was involved. And when you look at the timeline in 1994, Air Force released a report saying that Roswell case closed. So there is a lot of people who probably had lost their face, probably in the Air Force. What do you think about it? Because it's still something that people need to understand. Is Air Force, what is the position of Air Force? And when we look at what your ex-president Donald Trump has done about the creation of the Space Force, that probably had internal challenge for the Air Force, but we'll talk about it later on. So what do you think about this position for Air Force about the subject?
Well, you asked me quite a few questions. Let me first start with Roswell. So I want to make sure that I address your questions. Roswell, something happened. That's pretty clear. The details of what actually happened is still up for debate. But there was enough significance to that event or events that predicated an official U.S. response and not just operationally, meaning the deployment of people, but for a recovery mission, but also from a public affairs PAO perspective, where they actually had put out some statements about what happened in Roswell. I obviously wasn't around for Roswell.
Me too.
I did see anecdotal information, but you said something that was the first time the U.S. government was engaged, and I'll share with you that may not necessarily be true.
Okay.
There may be anecdotal information that indicates that perhaps the U.S. government was involved even before that in purported recovery type activities.
You mean probably 42 in Los Angeles or something, or?
I don't want to elaborate yet. I think some information is going to come to light here probably pretty soon about some interesting incidents. Again, it's not up to me, and there's some people out there that are willing to come forward, I think. But that aside, I just want to. I mean, look, I don't know. I wasn't around for there. I'm just providing you the information that I was indicated to me. I think we need to be careful jumping to presumptions or assumptions that Roswell was the first event similar to what we're thinking about. That may not be necessarily true. So with that said, now why the Air Force? Well, the Air Force is historically, once breaking away from the Army, has had that mission of maintaining U.S. air domain awareness and global air domain awareness. That means anything from 10 inches off the ground all the way to space, the Air Force is traditionally responsible for. During Blue Book, they were given the task of trying to figure these things out. It was a very difficult task. Pardon me, excuse me.
Bless you, man.
It was a very difficult task and not a very popular one, especially for an organization like the Air Force, where they are expected to have answers. So it's not surprising that there would be this emphasis of trying to close down every single, have an answer for every single event that they were investigating. Let's not forget that there were still quite a few that they couldn't. I think it was close to 701 or something like that cases that they had no idea about. So there was a lot of pressure, and obviously they were eager to close this out. They didn't want to deal with this anymore. We're at the height of the Cold War with then Soviet Union, who had real nuclear capabilities. We were playing a global game of chess against our adversary at the time. And I don't think the Air Force wanted a distraction. I don't think they wanted yet another mission to distract them from the very real mission that they had, which was, stopping a potential nuclear strike on the United States from Soviet Union. Now I think times have changed. The threats we face tend to be more asymmetric. Air Force responsibility for air domain awareness is now being shared by organizations like the NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, to some degree NASA, FAA, and now Space Force. So I suspect the conversation now is a little bit more palatable than it was before. Plus, the last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you tell the American people, for the record, there's nothing to see here, and then have to 30, 40 years go later and say, well, actually, there was. There was something to see here. So I can appreciate that position. I don't think we need to villainize the Air Force. They are an amazing service. They are comprised of heroes and patriots that just want to do their job and feed their families and serve their country. I also don't believe in blaming the son for the sins of the father. I don't think it's fair to blame today's Air Force for yesterday's Air Force mistakes. Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. When you were running the AATIP program, do you think, or did you have any contacts with other agency was also involved in this topic? Or you were just alone at the AATIP at the Pentagon?
Yeah, I'll answer it very succinctly. Yes, we were working with other elements within other agencies. Absolutely.
Okay, Thank you, Lou. It was just for clarification.
Sure.
Let's just get back in the more present day. I would say like probably a few days ago on internet, everywhere, a lot of videos and picture of pyramids have been shown here and there. So to be honest, I didn't really have the time to get into it, but what do you think about it? Is that because it looks like there's some misunderstanding about it?
Well,
Can you make very
yeah.
clear clarification, Lou?
Sure.
Thank you.
You're asking what I think, and so how about this? How about I just tell you what I know versus what I think, because it's probably a little bit more informative. What we know is that these are official videos that were taken by the Navy of some sort of unknown objects at the time, keeping in mind that there were a lot of reported UAP and / drone activity in the 2019 timeframe. So there was a heightened state of awareness, and policies have been promulgated throughout the Navy to report strange things in the sky. So that's what we do know. And we do know that there was a lot of activity being reported, that the United States Navy Snoopy team on site was able to gain some video and photographic what they consider evidence, and then provided that to the Navy, which the Navy used in an official UAP task force briefing. What has not been provided yet was a context in which that information was being used and what these objects are. And so because of that, there's a void, a gap of information, and people are now filling it with whatever they think. Yeah, which is understandable. It's human nature to do so. But I think we need to be very mindful of doing that. I'll also tell you too, the more that people are sensitized to the fact of UAPs now being real, the more people are going to look to the skies. And the more people look to the skies, the more people are going to see things, and also in some cases misidentify things that are legitimate: aircraft, drones, cruise missiles, meteorological type phenomenon, weather phenomenon, planets and stars and shooting stars. These things are obviously going to be wrapped up sometimes as misidentified UAP. And so I think we need to be prepared for that. I think the fact that this information is now being reported is proof positive that the system is now working. This is exactly what you want. You want people reporting things to you, whether it is a UFO or it's an aircraft that looks like a UFO. It's very important that we allow our men and women in uniform to report this information through the chain of command. That's the only way we're really going to know what's going on. And so I would caution people not to be discouraged, because by necessity, I think we can expect more and more as we open the aperture to this effort. More things are going to start to come in, and we're going to be able to start recognizing signatures of conventional aircraft and technology, as opposed to those that are truly remain unidentified and frankly quite remarkable. And so it's okay. I think what's going to be important is building, as we move forward, the necessary filters to separate known signatures of conventional technology versus those that are not. Basically identify where that delta exists, no pun intended, and try to really, that's where we should be focusing on. So no, I don't look at the recent barrage of UFO videos that have been released in information as being a bad thing. This is precisely what we want. This is exactly what we need, so we can have the collective conversation.
Don't you think there is probably a need for an official channel of information? I mean, there is probably something that makes people hard to understand, or just taking the time to think about it, is the way those video and picture get released. It just pop up on Twitter from people well known in the area, and this is probably an issue, because if there is no official way of sharing this information, you're going to always have people wonder, or people will not get interesting into it because it doesn't look official. Do you see what I mean?
I do. I know exactly what you mean, and I think it's an indicator that even people on the inside of the U.S. government are getting frustrated. I think there's people on the inside want this conversation to be had, and they want this conversation to be had certainly from over here by the American people. They deserve to know. This is not a topic that belongs under the providence of any one particular government or organization or institution or religion. It affects all of us equally, differently, but yet equally. And I think you're beginning to see a positioning by people inside the U.S. government that believe this is an important topic, and it should be a conversation that we all have. Hopefully, and I would reemphasize to anybody out there that wants to share information like this, I would not recommend sharing classified information. As long as information is unclassified, my recommendation was try to go through appropriate channels to release that information if you're so inclined. But I would never, ever, ever encourage anybody to break the law. There's no excuse for that. I don't think we need to. It's taken us 3 years, and we've managed to have this conversation so far without breaking any laws. I don't think we need to do that. I think we need to continue on the course we're on now, and I think in time we'll continue to see progress on this topic.
You made quite a good transition for what's coming next. There is of course, when you starting to getting on public, I think about the 17th of December 2017 or so, there is, as your personality, there is 3 other big things are connected. I mean, the 3 videos. Can you tell us? I'm sorry again to ask you that, because I know that a lot of people already ask you that, but
no worries.
Can you give us details about those 3 videos? How did you get them? You've been responsible for made them public. What can you tell us about these videos? Because there is a lot of people always send me questions. Hey, Nico, what do you think about it? This and this. So it's time for making it clear and official, because you were involved in the process.
Sure. So I was indeed involved in the process for their declassification and approval for release. There's a little bit of a nuance there, because I did not release the videos, but I did facilitate the process to have them reviewed from a security perspective. And so let me start from the beginning. We realized after several years we really weren't getting anywhere. And it was very frustrating, because the bureaucracy again was really preventing the conversation from happening. So I sat with my colleagues, and we all decided jointly that we should probably try to get more eyes on these videos, open up the aperture. Maybe we can get some experts in the industry, defense industrial base, maybe state, local, tribal, maybe some drone experts, anybody who has expertise outside of the group we were already working with. And so we decided that the best way to do that would be to grab 3 of the least compelling videos that we knew were unclassified, even though they were residing on a classified system. The videos had been they were sufficiently generic where they weren't going to reveal any type of sources and methods or sensitive collection efforts or capabilities we had. So we decided on those 3 videos, and then I submitted, because I was the most senior person, I submitted the paperwork through what they call the 1910 process. The 1910 is the official request that you fill out as a government official to have data reviewed from a security perspective to make sure it is unclassified. So I initiated that. I initiated that paperwork. Furthermore, I took the extra step of engaging 2 of the most senior officers in the Department of Defense, foreign disclosure officers. These are people that are specifically trained to look at data and determine if there would be any type of national security compromise if it got released. Had them look at the videos. They said they were fine. There was nothing sensitive there. The Department of Defense approved the release of those videos. Initially, I wanted to keep it in a smaller enclave, but the Department of Defense had indicated to me it's just easier to go ahead and release it at an unrestricted level so anybody could see them. So that was their decision to do so, and you can see that stamp of approval, so to speak, on the form itself that they approved. It was shortly thereafter that through someone else, it wasn't me, that the New York Times was able to get those videos and provide them. I think since then, one of my colleagues, Chris Mellon, has indicated he may have been part of that effort. But that's the details of that. You'd have to ask Chris. I really wasn't. I wasn't really privy, and I'm
hopefully,
I'm not sure I want to
know. No, yeah, absolutely. I remember there is people involved like Elena Cooper and Leslie King on the newspaper for the New York Times at that day. So there is for sure internal connection for that to happen. It's too big. It's no coincidence. It's no luck. It's a will, I would say. But thank you for making this clarification. There's something very important is when you look at this video, they're very short. They are out of context. And I think maybe you know now that that's might be something hard sometimes to explain to people for what it is, how that happened, and what was the context of this. I remember people saying, hey, you heard those pilots, how they speak, that's so weird. And sometimes you're, hey, remind me that this is out of context. There is a very longer version of those videos, but they're still classified. Am I right, Lou?
I'm not going to I can't provide details on if something is classified. If something is classified, I really don't want to elaborate one way or the other. What I can tell you is that those videos were taken and provided. What you see is a brief moment in time, and those videos are real. They come from real Department of Defense equities, weapon systems, if you will. And we classify things in this country to protect sources and methods. And so if a longer video were to exist, probably one can imagine that even certain call signs over the radio could be considered sensitive. Perhaps there's locational data of where these aircraft were, the types of missions that they were conducting, the circumstances that would want to be protected and remain, and that are considered sensitive and so remain classified. That's usually why we classify things. We're not supposed to classify things and abuse that power because something is embarrassing or something like that. So when something is classified, usually, not always, but usually it's for a very good reason.
No, I totally understand that. It's just for making it clear for people to understand that, because probably a lot of people are not really familiar with the process and those stuff. So I understand that for sure. There is when we look at this video, there is something that is coming up very often is the quality of them. People are arguing that we can shoot the moon with a very high definition, or we can have amazing picture from Mars, but we have a hard time for having a really high definition picture or video of this object. What is your, I would say, traditional or regular answer to this reaction?
Well, first of all, there is high definition pictures that exist. I won't go beyond that, but I will also say that one of the observables, coincidentally enough, regarding the UAP topic is low observability. There's something there, but it's hard to define because it doesn't follow the same type of design characteristics as conventional aircraft. There's no obvious wings or propulsion or cockpit. It's just kind of this weird looking blob out there. But it's doing things that a blob shouldn't do, right? There's a lot more to it. For example, going against a 120 knot wind. Well, balloons don't do that, right? It's very tough for drones to do something like that, especially if it's a fixed wing and not a rotary wing. I'm sorry, if it's a rotary wing drone and not a fixed wing. There's certain key characteristics that are really, really hard to explain. But low observability is one of the observables. And let's not forget that, whenever I've often said, imagine looking at koi fish or goldfish in a pond. And when you're standing on top of the pond, they appear distorted. They're not really distorted. It's just that the way the light reacts to a different in this case, a different medium, water. Water is the characteristics of light energy refracted and reflected in a way that what goes into the water is not necessarily what bounces back and hits your eye. And so you get this distortion quality about looking at the fish. And who's to say that when we're looking at UAP, there isn't a similar distortion field involved, that light energy, electromagnetic energy, radar energy, is what goes in is not necessarily the same that gets reflected back out, whether to the sensor or in this case, the human eye. It's something that we need to, we probably remain cognizant of.
Yeah, I remember reading a book probably like 15 years ago or something from a man that I know you have been in contact and work with, is Jacques Vallée. Jacques Vallée is actually French and who is living in the US for quite a long time now. I have a very deep respect for the man, absolutely. And I remember reading this.
Although I still can't figure out why he's not living in the Bordeaux area of France, because I mean, man, comparatively speaking, I think I'd rather live over there than.
Lou, you have a lot of advantage living in the US. As I said, I used to live there and I miss America quite like every day. It's a very beautiful country, but France is also
if you
very
want, we
beautiful.
can switch sometime. If you want to come here, I'll gladly go over there for a little bit, and you can stay over here at my place, and we'll just switch houses.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Yeah. So Jacques Vallée was, it had this novel, was the Invisible College or something. So when I'm saying this is this, maybe what we are actually seeing is probably not material, is probably something else. I want to make this transition to the science a little bit. We talk about science, but not quite. I know it's not your quantics is not your expertise, but because you were working closely to Dr. Adputov, maybe you can share with us maybe some thought about it. Do you think it's 100% material? But does that sound that if you have a radar or something, it's material? What can you share with us about this? If you can't, I understand, but I have to ask this.
Wow. No, Nico, that's a great question. I've never been asked that question before. And you're gonna force me to go into a little bit of supposition and opinion here. So let me see if I can do this in a way that's inadvertently. I'm not recklessly providing my opinion, because I want to be very careful not to do that. We know in nature, most of the universe remains not only unseen to us, but we don't have the ability to interact with it. So what do I mean by that? So we have 5 fundamental senses for which we perceive the universe, and that is sight, smell, touch, taste, hearing. And unless we can judge the universe from those 5 perspectives, we have no way of knowing something is real or is not. And in fact, right now there's an entire reality around me, a universe around me, that in some cases even coursing through my body, that I have no idea are there. So Wi-Fi signals, cell signals, radar from aircraft and from boats and from airports. Electromagnetic signals are coursing through my body all the time. There are these tiny nanoparticles coming from space and zipping right through my body and even Earth without even interacting with us. So we know that a lot of the universe remains beyond our 5 senses, and we have to create technology just to know that it's real. In fact, if you were to look at a night sky as beautiful as it is, if you were to look at it with a radio telescope, you would begin to see all sorts of different things there in nebula that you had no idea were there, and yet they're right there in front of you. You just can't perceive them. Furthermore, where the human being sits on the grand scale of the universe, right, from the smallest things that we know to the very, very largest, we human beings sit just about right in the middle. So on a scale of reality, as small as we are to the greater universe, 27 billion light years across in our visible universe that we can see, there is equally that amount of distance inside of us. When you go from the very large we are all the way down to subatomic particles, that scale is just as vast as it is inward as it is outward. And that's pretty profound, because that by definition means that 99.9% of the known universe, not only can we not see or perceive, we'll never be able to even interact with or appreciate, because it's either at too small of a level or too large of a scale for us to really be able to interact and appreciate. So we, as a life form, live in this very, very narrow spectrum, this narrow band of reality. And so it'd be very ignorant for us to perceive or believe that the entire universe is going to fit neatly in the confines of those limitations, because in reality, we know most of the universe is outside of that. So why would we presume otherwise, that this is it, that's everything that I see and hear is got to be it? I think it's foolish for us to presume that, because science has shown us that's not reality. In fact, reality is much different. In fact, we tend to be the minority. We live in this little narrow spectrum, but reality is much broader. And when you ask me a question as far as Jacques Vallée is concerned, and can there be more to this than nuts and bolts, and is it a thing? Well, we simply don't know. You're a human being. I'm talking to you right now, but are you defined by a body, or are you defined by something else? Is what the difference. What makes Nico and Luis is more than just skin. It's more than just eye color. It's more than just hair. There's something else to Nico. In fact, one might argue that there's much more to Nico than what we see. In fact, if I were to get into a tragic accident and lose my arms and my legs, I'm still Lou Elizondo. In fact, if I had some sort of perhaps brain injury and I don't have all complete use of my mental faculty, I'm still Lou Elizondo. I haven't changed. So is there more to Lou Elizondo? Is there more to Nico? Is there more to a person than just the physical body? Well, probably. I mean, that's where religion comes into play, right? And so is there more to the phenomenon? Well, if I think if I was a betting man, I think I'd have to say yes, only because something had to create it. There's some sort of intent, some sort of intelligent control and design behind these things. And so by definition, yes, there probably is more to these things than just nuts and bolts. The problem is how much. And unfortunately, I'm not qualified to answer that question.
So what we can be clear on that is those objects are real. And I guess you mentioned Eric Davids at the beginning from Hertech, who was involved also with AATIP, if I'm correct. I remember reading some studies who has been conducted by, I don't remember if it was Hertech or only Dr. Apatow, but all those studies mention a lot of researches in various areas of science.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, just reading the title, because it's not quite available right now. When I had this pleasure, I spoke with Dr. Apatow a few months back, and he sent me some of his work. It's very hard. I'm not scientific, so it's a very complicated subject, but that raises a lot of questions. There is something that I want to ask you, Lou, about it, is how we can be sure that these objects are not human, because are not from human tech. I mean, I was reading this. There is your people have made some research to know how we are other country advanced in technology. Where are we standing? Are we capable of doing this? I mean, from an international standpoint, like probably from Japan, China, or Europe, or even America. I try to be clear. I'm not English speaker, so sometimes it could be hard for you also to understand the question.
I understand loud and clear. Let's put this in context of temporal. Are we capable of creating vehicles that can perform instantaneous acceleration? Yes, we are. Are we capable of creating vehicles that can perform at hypersonic velocities? Yes, we can. Can we develop technology that is hard to see and low observable? Well, of course, we have the B-2 bomber and other stealth technology. Spent a lot of money on it. Are we capable of creating vehicles that can operate in more than one medium? Well, sure, we have seaplanes that can fly and also land in the water. And are we capable of creating objects that can seemingly defy Earth's natural gravity without wings and obvious signs of propulsion? Well, we're working on it. So each and every one of these is certainly possible. But when you start looking at these observables as one technology, that becomes increasingly more difficult, exponentially so. And furthermore, looking at it at a temporal aspect, are we capable now, today, to some degree? Yes. Were we capable 10 years ago? To a much lesser degree. Were we capable 20 years ago? No. Were we capable 40, 50, 60 years ago? I think, it's one thing. Can we build a 747 now? Yes. But you wouldn't expect walking into King Tut's tomb for the very first time and seeing a 747 sitting in the tomb. That would be a problem, right? Because we clearly did not have the technology back then to build a 747. And so that's what we have to recognize here, is that as we look at this technology or these technologies being used, we have to look at it from the context of time. Do we have the capability now? Individually, perhaps. I don't think as a collective group, as a collective, all the observables. Will we have the capability? Probably at some point, but we sure didn't have it, 30, 40, 50, 70, 80 years ago. We didn't have it.
That raises some question, of course, because we can start to wonder of have we been able to, I would say, probably make some retro engineering or something if we have collected something. There is question about it. Of course, I have no idea, to be honest. I have no preconception of if it had happened or if it is real or not. I just totally understand what you're saying. If now we can do those things, okay, all right, technology is not the same that it was probably around the 40s, So how we can do we have to talk about this, or do we have to wait until we have more documentation? Because I guess it's just the starting process of disclosure in some way. I would say the real disclosure starting with you on the 17th of 2017 in December. This process of being able to talk about the subject in an open manner with no.
So with all due respect, I can't take credit for that.
No,
I think disclosure has begun before me. It is teamwork, and
it's absolutely teamwork.
I was just one link in the chain, but I think there's a lot of people out there that probably deserve that credit more than me. Than as far as starting the conversation and disclosure.
No, for sure. And you're right to be on point. And because, if I had, Robert Bigelow or Senator Harry Reid or Chris Mellon, I would say, you all been part of this team, and you all challenge the bureaucracy for making it publicly and just having this open conversation. So sorry about it. It's
no apologies. I can't take credit that I don't deserve. That I can't. That's not. I didn't start this ball rolling. Sure, I was one of the players on the field, but it's a pretty big field and there's a lot of players.
But it looks like that, that you like or not, but I think that there's a lot of people who feel confident or appreciate who you are as a human being. You challenge your own professional life for making it this subject, official. So a lot of people are very impressed about this because, as you mentioned, Robert Bigelow, if you probably like being a billionaire, you probably go on an island drinking, some champagne. So you part of that people who are trying to get on a much more, deeper subject, more intellectually challenging. So yeah, that's part of your credit, sir. Sorry, sorry. Anyway, I want to get on another part of this conversation. It's been an hour. We were talking, and we've been through the military. We talk a bit about science, and we talk about how this 3 videos happen. There is something that we haven't really mentioned. I never really heard you talking about it, and hopefully you will be able to comment. Life is politics. This is how it is.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. But this is the real world, I would say. I mean, when I started working on the UFO topic, it was back, I said, let's say 15 or something. But there is something that I always thought about it is, nothing really happened about the UFO subject publicly. Neither on any Democrats or Republican presidents in the past, really much. Except, some sentence here and there. Like we all remember Obama as a president saying, "Oh, Area 51, why not?" Or Bill Clinton saying, "UFO, very interesting," but they never really went deeper, I would say, publicly. Everything happened during this Donald Trump presidency. I'm French, so I have a very, I would say, standard. I have no political really side of this, but I just look at very objective way, saying that all the UFO subject, the recent UFO subject, moved under the Donald Trump presidency. Before, never. And maybe in the future, we'll see. We'll see how that happened with the new president. Hopefully, we'll keep going and we'll have more information. But is that there is? What do you think about it? Because I guess you've been part of the military. Politics are involved. So, is there something that you can share with us about this? Have you been in contact with the White House? Have you been in contact with the Trump administration? I'm sure when they read the article of the New York Times, everybody was either they knew it or either they have no idea about it. Can you comment on this?
Boy,
if you can, it's fine. But
no. Let me see a way I can do this. So first of all, I believe this is a nonpartisan issue. I don't think whether you're a conservative or liberal or anything in between.
Yeah.
This is a topic that involves humanity writ large.
And you mentioned it at the beginning of the video.
We shouldn't. Yeah. And we shouldn't pollute this topic with politics.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to pollute this topic with politics,
sure.
Because politics, rarely has a place in an issue like this. Why did the Trump administration take this seriously? Well, because they didn't have a choice. Because the reality is that the data and the fidelity of data that coming out was compelling. Let's not forget that Congress has received classified briefings on both sides, and they've all come out unanimously and say, yeah, this is a potential national security issue. So that's not partisan politics. That's I think people speaking from the heart. So it just happened to be under the Trump administration, but I would suspect any administration, either side that had privy and access to this information would come to the same conclusion. Now, as far as my involvement or not with this administration or any administration before that, it's important that we allow our leadership and our elected officials to speak for themselves. I would never want to put words in anyone's mouth, and I would never want to say something without the explicit approval of the other party. That if we're, when I say party, I don't mean political party, but if we're having a conversation about me and someone else, I would want to make sure that someone else is okay with me having that conversation. So As far as my work, if any, with the U.S. government, I'm going to politely sidestep that question for now because,
Oh, sure.
you know, you would need to ask the government first because I don't want to speak on behalf of the government. It's none of my business to speak on behalf of the government. So I'll
No, sure.
leave that at
Understand.
that.
No, sure, absolutely. Thank you for trying to give me more details about this. There is a very important information come up. It was in June 2018 about the Space Force creation. Do you think it is related to the UFO subject? This creation of the Space Force. It's not really a creation, if I'm right. It used to be with Air Force, but they wanted to separate it and making a total independent Space Force.
They did. Yeah, they created Space Force because the domain of space is we're realizing is far more complex and much larger than necessarily one service can handle. It's a lot. When you look at what the mission of Space Force is, it's once you get to the upper atmosphere, all the way out to the farthest planets of our solar system. That's out to infinity. That's a pretty big domain. That's a pretty big mission. So
It's a very large one.
So I applaud that effort. As far as the relationship Space Force has to this topic, that's a question you'd have to ask Space Force. I'll respectfully, I'm gonna punt that question and allow Space Force to answer that. Do I think they have a valid mission? Absolutely. Do I think they're value added to this topic? Absolutely. But anything more than that.
No, I understand, Lou. Yeah, no, I understand, but I had to ask for it because I
Sure.
want facts. I really want facts, and I have no doubt about your background, expertise, where you came from. So that's why I really want to have facts. That's not my opinion. My as you say, personal opinion doesn't really
Right.
matter at the end of the day. So I'm just here for sharing facts from you to the audience and making it clear. There is the, of course, we're speaking a lot of America, the United States of America, for sure. You're an American patriot, and this topic is international, is absolutely international. You said that at the beginning of the video. I remember from the first time that we met at the Maggie Planet, you mentioned that Japan has joined also the interest of the UFO subject with the United States of America. Can we expect in the few next weeks or months more country to coming out and being starting talking about it and see if there is I would say a collective work able to do it or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. This is not a U.S. phenomenon. This is a global phenomenon, and I think it's going to take a global conversation. Look, I'll give you an example. I keep this little globe on my desk here that has all the countries of the world. But something funny that when you remove lines, artificial lines and color, and you just look at the world for what it is, you begin to realize that we're all connected. It's all one big chunk of landmass. With the exception of a couple little pieces here and there, but we all share this rock we call Earth together, and as a result, something just like climate change involves all of us. Maybe we should look at this problem collectively and as a human species rather than as a country or a political organization or anything else. This is a topic that involves every one of us. We're all in it together. So why not have the conversation together? Wouldn't that be wonderful if this could be used to bridge our differences and our gaps?
Yeah.
How amazing would that be? Where
That
some
would
of
be
our
amazing.
traditional adversaries like China and Russia wind up becoming, friends in an endeavor like this. You know, we know that they're dealing with the same thing. Maybe this would be an opportunity to do
How
that.
how that can happen? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just making a suggestion here, but do you think if it's still the military who handle the subject? It will be always very hard for first the public to know
Yeah,
about it because there will always be a secrecy there. Secondly, there will be always a national security issue. I mean, like even China or Russia or France or America, all countries have a national security challenge.
sure.
Um, so how we can create a pipeline, a public pipeline where we can
Okay,
sat and start
sure.
talking about it. What
Well,
do
well,
you think
first
about
of
that?
all, we don't need the government's approval to have this conversation, first and
Sure.
foremost. So it may be a national security issue, but there's nothing stopping us from having the conversation. And I'll tell you too, I think only part of this conversation is national security. I think there's a lot of this conversation that doesn't even belong in the realm of government.
Yeah.
Should probably belong in the realm of academics and scientists and universities and philosophers and theologians. You know, there's part of this topic that probably has nothing to do with government at all. And we shouldn't have to be relying on the government to give us all the information we're going to know about the phenomenon. That I think is lazy. I think that's irresponsible. There's nothing stopping us right now, like we're having this conversation. This is what it's about. The people have a right around the world to engage on this topic in a way that they want to. And so I think you're seeing that. I think you're seeing
Yeah.
this awakening, this realizing that we don't need to be fed crumbs from the government on this topic. We can take charge. We can lead the conversation on many aspects of this phenomenon. We shouldn't have to rely on the government to do it. The government's going to do what the government does, and that is supposedly protect its people. And those are all governments, by the way. That's their charge around the world. But there's a lot of this conversation that doesn't involve the government. Why are we asking the government on for particulars on those aspects that frankly is none of their damn business? Let's have the conversation ourselves. Let's set up international organizations and scientific communities of interest where we can engage in this. Let's get universities and research centers to look into this.
Sure. You're absolutely right. And hopefully there is more people who get interest about it. And I started seeing it because I remember a few years ago, talking about this, the UFO was a social stigma. I probably lost some position in my career also about this.
You and me both.
Yeah,
Ask me how I know.
really, yeah, and that's why I was really personally touched when I read your comments about this. I was, Jesus, man, I experimented that a few times, and I was like, but for me, but it still hurts because you're like, I'm open-minded and they're not. Who is right? This is a very human sensation feeling, but anyway, it looks like that we are moving in a good direction. I would say, for the last 3 to 4 years, it's starting to move in a proper way. I'm not going to be very surprised. I am a little bit, but I want to ask you this because I was preparing my Christmas dinner with my wife and my family this year, 2020, and I went on Twitter and I read that Lou and Chris Mellon left TTSA, and I was like, oh, what a Christmas gift! What a Christmas gift! I was just, what really happened? I really understand why you went to TTSA, and I think Tom DeLonge had really good idea about trying to change the narrative because when I was in LA, I was working in the industry, and narrative is everything, and we have today an issue with the narrative around the UFO. So I'm not going to talk about Tom DeLonge, he's not there, but I want to ask you what was your motivation to left TTSA, if you can answer.
Sure. Well, I wasn't leaving TTSA to escape anything. I
Okay.
was leaving TTSA because I knew that in order to go to what I call shifting into second gear, shifting into the next gear, would require me doing things that would be outside the mission statement of TTSA. And I think the same is true with Chris Mellon and Steve Justice and Hal and others. We didn't abandon TTSA. We simply realized that we have come as far as we can with TTSA, but if we want to really take the conversation now global, we would have to do more. We can't be comfortable looking back at our accomplishments and saying, "Wow, look what we did! Wasn't that great?" And that's never what this is about. We are committed to pushing this topic to front and center of the global conversation. Until which point the people make a decision. Is this important? Is this a priority or no? And if the people make that decision that it's not, then I'm fine. I can go retire and you'll never see me again. But as long as the people are expecting transparency and clarity and more information, then it is my moral obligation to continue with that mission. And sometimes, if you have a long mission, which this is, I've told people this is not an event. Disclosure is a process. It's a long ride. Be prepared. This is not instant gratification and, have it your way now. No. There's going to be a lot of teeth gnashing and frustration getting to this finish line when we finally get there. But I think we're well on that way. But let me say that I think in order to have sometimes when you want to take a long journey, you need to use several different types of vehicles. It depends. If I'm going to cross the desert, then I probably want a Jeep. But if I have to cross a river, well, now I have to jump on a boat. And then if I need to, for example, cross a mountain range, well, I might need a horse. So it's important that people recognize that this is a dynamic and an evolving landscape, and we have to be prepared to adapt and adapt in order to continue to move forward. And that's precisely what we're doing.
Thanks. People wonder because TTSA was part of TTSA. There is the part of arts might be an issue also for communication that could diminish the dialogue that you try to share to the public. I can understand that in some way. So that might not help, I would say. But thank you for making it good, and we wish that everybody who was involved there is going to keep moving forward, starting to make their work more publicly and in the future. And this is one of the very last question I have for you. Is I want to talk about the present. What is actually your mission? What is your objective? What do you want to do? And are you going to go back to the military, or are you going to stay in the public area and trying to share the information? Sorry for asking it, but
no, that's again, that's a really good question. That's going to require some thought. I don't want to just flippantly answer. I've committed a good portion of my life to this topic, working for the government. By the way, a mission that I didn't ask for. I was asked to do it. And many good people did the same thing and were willing to give up everything to do the mission. And some people paid the price. They lost their careers. They lost their credibility. And I saw it firsthand. For me, my mission is simple. Get the government to do what it's supposed to do regarding this topic or any other topic. I don't care if it's about UFOs or anything else. If there is an issue, we mustn't allow stigma and taboo to squelch the conversation. And the same holds for me. I've told people, the more you try to muzzle me, the louder I'm going to be. That's just my commitment to the American people. I took an oath many years ago to defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And when I left government service, I was never relieved of that responsibility. They never said, "Okay, you don't have to do that now." That's not the case. And so, I think, my commitment has always been my loyalty has always been to the American people, and I take that loyalty. It's a profound commitment, and I don't know how to explain it, because either you have it or you don't. And I made a promise. I made a promise, and a promise that I intend to keep. A promise to always tell the American people the truth, whatever that truth is, whether it's convenient or not. And this is a topic that needs some light on it. We've been keeping it quiet for too long. I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm not going to stop until I'm told to stop or we have an answer. If the American people and decide now the global community, if they say, "Look, Lou, we're not really interested," then fine. But at least you had the opportunity to have the conversation. Whereas before, people were making that decision on your behalf. That no, you don't want to have that conversation. That to me is an injustice. It goes against every principle I have regarding democracy. That's not a democracy. That's a tyranny. And so it's an information tyranny. And so I think we need to fix that. If we really believe we are free as a people, and the government is here to serve the people, not the other way around, then we need to make sure government does what it's supposed to do. And this topic is no different. Whether we're talking about a global pandemic like COVID, or we're talking about transnational terrorism, or we're talking about anything else, the people have a right to know. Sitting in a seat somewhere in the Pentagon or the intelligence community, you don't get to decide for the American people what they get to know and what they don't know. You represent their interests. You do what they tell you to do, not the other way around. And so, I guess that's why.
Okay. Thank you, Lou. Before leaving you, and thank you for the time that we share together. I have one very last question.
Sure.
That question is, this summer, in June, July, we probably have more information, official information. What can we really expect from that UFO task force?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that people that you work with and you're still working are involved, trying to push to the boundaries for having probably a more, I would say, official or disclosure information around it. But what can we really expect? A lot of people wonder about it.
So 180 days is certainly not enough time to provide
Sure.
a comprehensive report to Congress. And I think both the executive and legislative branches recognize that. So I think, best case we can hope for is that there will be an interim report provided with a recommendation to give more time so we can provide a more comprehensive answer to Congress that it is expecting, and frankly, that it deserves. I think that'd be the best case scenario, with basically, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, and here is our recommendation to try to figure out what we don't know. If we can do that, I think that would be certainly a win in my book.
Thank you very
Yes,
much. I had an amazing pleasure talking with you and asking all these questions that
you're
came
too
from.
kind. You're too kind.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. It was really nice. It was really nice having facts, always facts to questions, because this is the only way we can really move forward. I like talking about imagination and things, but I would say this and I would talk about this more in a private way, not in a public. And I think you're doing the same. So thank you again, Lou. I would give you the last word for the French people who was
Sure.
going to watch this very long video, I would say. Thank you again. I will give you the last word.
Sure. Well, to our brothers and sisters in France, remember that much of what we've done here in our country and our independence was inspired by you. The United States and France has always had a very close relationship, a very special relationship. I've had the honor and privilege of serving with some of France's finest, and you know, I would do it again. Let's not forget that we're all the same. Once we take down our national borders and remove the lines from the map, we're all connected. We're all French. We're all American. We're all Chinese. We're all African. I think that's important because we are a global community. And I would encourage you to continue to ask the hard questions. And it's okay. It can be, if it's a little scary. Life is a little scary sometimes. But with questions comes boundless amounts of opportunity. And as to some, as scary as this topic may be, I would also submit to you that there's potentially tremendous opportunity, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. It is in our DNA to ask questions. It is in our DNA to explore and always search beyond the horizon. And I think this is no different. And my word of advice and my word of encouragement would be Godspeed. Let's do this together.
Thank you very much, Lou. Thank you very much to everyone. If you have any question, let's go in the comments, and I will take some time, of course, to try to do my best to answer your question. Thank you again, Lou.
Thank you, Nico.
I and everybody, wish you a very amazing future, and let's see maybe in a few months where we are on the topic. Take care. Thank you very much. Bye.
Nico, my pleasure. Thank you so much.